Chapter 42 of Married Tries to Salted Fish. A few days later, sure enough, summons from the emperor came from the palace, ordering Lin Qingyu to come to the palace to see him. With his relationship to the empress, Lin Qingyu could be considered as being related to the emperor. However, having no official position, this time he could only enter the palace as a commoner. Hualu deliberately chose a dark colored robe. On Lin Qingyu, it created an image as clear and elegant as the sky after the rain. Lin Qingyu remembered the first time he entered the palace to thank the empress. Before he left for the palace, Jiang had been very reluctant. When asked why, what did Jiang say? I am afraid that greaseball of a prince might take a fancy to you. Oh, aside from the crown prince, you have got to watch out for the emperor too. Old men like young and beautiful. Jiang's words regarding Shao Cheng had already proved prophetic. Was he also going to be right about the emperor? Lin Qingyu said, I won't be wearing this one. Bring out that purple chenier. Hualu was surprised. Is Shaojun referring to the one made last year? She remembered that Shaojun wasn't fond of purple. At that time, the young master said that this color was so tacky that it hurt his eyes. And so, she quickly placed it on the bottom of the box. But Shaojun is still within the period of mourning. It would be better to dress plainly. It doesn't matter. Lin Qingyu put on the purple clothes. However, just looking at his figure and face, he was still extremely eye-catching. It was the most he could do. There was also the risk of being punished if he were to behave improperly before His Majesty. Lin Qingyu entered the palace with the eunuch who had come to pick him up from the mansion. He arrived at Xinjiang's palace on foot. The emperor is currently discussing matters with the crown prince, the head eunuch of Xinjiang palace said. Lin Shaojun, please wait here for a while. The eunuch in charge of the administrative affairs of Xinjiang palace was named Xue Ying. He has served the emperor for many years, and even the empress had to give him some face. Lin Qingyu nodded and said, Thank you for your trouble, Gong Gong. Xue Ying was a veteran in the palace. There were 3,000 beauties in the harem. There has never been a beauty that he hasn't seen, but he was still stunned the first time he saw this newly widowed Lin Shaojun. Male homosexuality was quite in vogue in the Dayu, and there were several stylish and attractive male attendants within the emperor's own harem. However, they were obviously no match for Lin Shaojun. It was simply that the emperor had good taste and preferred light-faced beauties, like lotuses in clear water. Lin Shaojun dressed so tackily, if it weren't for his face, how could he ever be worth of admiration to anyone? Said to wait a moment, but Lin Qingyu waited for more than half an hour until finally Shao Cheng came out. When Shao Cheng saw Lin Qingyu, a hint of surprise flashed in his eyes. Why are you here? Xue Ying explained. Answering His Highness, Lin Shaojun has performed a meritorious deed for formulating the prescription for the cure for the epidemic. The emperor will personally be rewarding him for his achievement. Oh. Shao Cheng raised one eyebrow and walked half a circle around Lin Qingyu. I also thought you had nothing but a pretty face. I didn't expect you to have such talent. As expected of one who has taken a fancy to. Shao Cheng leaned in close to Lin Qingyu's ear the sound of the tail end of his words turning up. Little Chingyu. Lin Chingyu took a half step back, successfully escaping Shao Cheng's breath. I hope His Highness knows to conduct himself with dignity in front of Xinjiang Palace. Shao Cheng gave a vague smile. I am merely greeting my younger cousin. How am I not conducting myself with dignity? Shu Ying saw that the atmosphere between the two wasn't right. With a smile on his face, he broke the stalemate, saying, His Highness may have heard Lin Panyan has accepted General Gu as his adopted son. Lin Shaojun is very fortunate indeed to have General Gu as an adoptive brother. As expected of a slick and experienced person of the palace, with just a few casual words, he had managed to resolve the deadlock. Gu Fuzhao had 300,000 troops in his grasp. He was the head of the military and enjoyed great prestige within the army. Jiang once said that before Shaojeng fell completely in love with Shen Haoshe, the thing he valued most was his position as crown prince. So long as Shao Cheng still had brains, he wasn't going to embarrass Gu Fuzhao over a stand-in. Sure enough, Shao Cheng restrained the look he directed at Lin Chingyu. Gu Fuzhao. Shao Cheng licked the tip of his teeth. His words laced with deeper meaning. The Lin family is quite capable when it comes to finding backers for themselves. It's a pity that this time may be different. Even if it is Gu Fuzhao, he may not prove dependable. Having said so, Shao Cheng left. A little eunuch walked out of Qingjiang Palace and said, Lin Shaojun, please. The emperor was past 40. His health was sometimes good and sometimes bad. Having read reports for half a day and discussed matters with the crown prince for a couple of hours, he was long past the point where he could perform as well as he wanted. However, he still wanted to see this Lin Shi who came up with the cure for the epidemic. Generally speaking, Lin Shi's contribution could be compared to Gu Fuzhao. One secured safety within, the other safety from without. The emperor rubbed his forehead wearily. He saw a young man in purple walk in and kneel down in front of him. Your subject, Lin Chingyu, is here to see your majesty. Rise. Lin Chingyu stood up. His eyes were lowered and he stood in the dim light, as if he didn't dare to look directly at the emperor. As soon as the emperor saw his clothes, he didn't bother looking at him seriously. I heard from the Imperial Medical Office that you were the one who came up with the cure for the epidemic. Lin Chingyu lowered his eyes and said, Yes, but this subject was only able to come up with the prescription in a short period of time with the guidance of his teacher. The emperor also thought Lin Chingyu too young. Experience and qualifications were important for medical practitioners. Where is your teacher now? My teacher travels all over the world. He lives in no fixed place and his current whereabouts are uncertain. This subject also doesn't know where he is. Your teacher seems to be an otherworldly master. Of course, you yourself are equally outstanding, the emperor said. Your father just pulled General Gu back from the brink of death for me, and you saved my countless subjects. Sure enough, with a father as a tiger, the son cannot be a dog. The emperor bestows undue praise and the subject feels uneasy. The emperor didn't want to waste too much time on Lin Chingyu. You have made great contributions to ending of this epidemic. Tell me, what reward would you like? Lin Chingyu's eyes sparkled and he said, "This subject wishes to be able to walk freely in the Imperial Medical Office, to work with the world's most famous doctors, to read all the medical books, and make a modest contribution to His Majesty's continued glory." Oh, the Emperor's tone as he said that "oh" was somewhat similar to Shao Chang's. "I didn't expect you to have such an aspiration." Little Chingy didn't want an official position or money. He only wanted the qualification to join the Imperial Medical Office. This made the Emperor regard him with a little bit more respect. "You are a talented person, but you have already married a man as a male wife. It would be inconvenient for you now to uncover your head and show your face." Lin Chingy knelt down once again. "Young Master Hao has passed away, and this subject has done his duty as his wife. I hope His Majesty may reconsider." The marriage between you and Lu Wancheng was originally requested by the Empress. The Empress also mentioned this a few days ago. After all, a male wife violates the ancestral system, and the Nanan House mansion has met repeated calamity because of it. What the Empress wishes is to let you return to the Lin residence. The Emperor thought for a moment and said, "Forget it. One does not question the origins of a hero. I grant you the post of a 7th grade doctor. You can now walk freely in the Imperial Medical Office." Lin Chingy bowed and thanked him. "Your servant thanks the Emperor for his kindness." Lin Chingy walked out Xinjiang Palace, suddenly wanting to laugh. He hadn't taken the Imperial Medical Officer's exam last year, but he hadn't needed to wait another 3 years, having achieved his former ambition this way. It was somewhat laughably easy. Since Lu Wancheng's death, his luck seemed to have taken a turn. He had wealth and riches. He has regained his freedom. For some inexplicable reason, he now also has a powerful and influential adoptive brother, and finally, he has joined the Imperial Medical Office, which he has been aspiring to for a long time. Was that person's soul blessing from him from somewhere? "Congratulations to Imperial Physician Lin," Xue said with a smile. "In the future, our servants will be under Imperial Physician Lin's care." Lin Chingy smiled. "Eunuch Xue is being polite. It is me who is in need of your care." With an end to the palace, his hand could finally reach the Eastern Palace. Lin Chingy followed the eunuch who was leading the way out of the palace and happened to meet Hu Ji, who was about to return to the office after performing his duties. The two walked out together. Hu Ji heard that Lin Chingy had been promoted to a doctor of the 7th grade and said with joy, "Then Imperial Physician Lin and I will be colleagues in the future." It appears so. By the way, has Imperial Physician Lin heard about this amusing thing regarding General Gu? Lin Chingy saw that Hu Ji's expression was a little weird. He seemed to want to laugh but felt that he shouldn't. Lin Chingy asked, "What?" "I just met with Shao Songji, who serves tea in Xinjiang Palace. It was he who told me about this amusing matter," Hu Ji wondered. "It can't quite be considered simply amusing. His Majesty is worried about us." Hu Ji had been promoted by concubine Chen and the Crown Prince. He now held a certain position within the Imperial Hospital. In terms of qualifications, he could already diagnose and treat the Empress and the Imperial concubines. But he was still the same as before, with no air of haughtiness about him at all. Whether it was the eunuchs, the palace maids, the guards, or the wet nurses, As long as someone seeks medical treatment, he will try his best to cure them. In the palace, the life of a servant was of little value. Huji's only intention was to cure sicknesses and save patients, but along the way, he had inadvertently won over the hearts of many of the palace's residents. Therefore, he was very popular in the palace, and even the people around the emperor were willing to reveal to him information that weren't considered confidential. If the word amusing could be used to describe it, it definitely wasn't anything important. It was probably a joke some brainless concubine in the harem competing for a favor made. Lin Qingyu didn't care much and asked casually, "What is it?" Today, the Deputy General of Shaanxi Army, General Zhao Mingwei's report was sent to the Emperor's desk. The Shaanxi Army, the Dayu's army that was fighting against Shixia in Yongliang, according to the Dayu's military law, the troops weren't allowed to make any private contact with the outside world. Even when the situation was serious, they couldn't even write to their families lest any of the military's plans be leaked to the enemies. Violators, regardless of their status, would be dealt with according to military law. It could be said that the only connection between Yongliang and the capital were the reports delivered by Xinjiang Palace. If Lin Qingyu wanted to know news about his father, he could only rely on Hu Ji to ask the eunuch of Xinjiang Palace. Has something unforeseen happened in Yongliang? Hu Ji knew what Lin Qingyu was worried about and said, "Imperial physician Lin, don't worry. The Jiangxi army under the leadership of General Gu defeated the Shixia army not long ago. Pan Yuan is most assuredly safe." General Zhao's report was a request to impeach General Gu. General Zhao has followed Gu Fuzhao for many years. He was loyal and devoted to him. His respect for him as high as a mountain. Why would he suddenly request for his impeachment, especially just after a great victory? On what grounds is he requesting General Gu's impeachment? At this, Hu Ji couldn't restrain a smile. He said that General Gu loves to dawdle in bed too much, that getting him to discuss military matters in the morning is nothing short of a disaster. In the end, the generals had to discuss important military affairs in front of his bed. General Gu also hated it when the discussions dragged on for too long. He told them to wash and go to bed early, saying that only in this way can they replenish their energies. Not long ago, the enemy launched a surprise attack late in the evening, and as the soldiers were approaching the city, General Gu, half asleep and dazed, with his quilt wrapped around him, climbed atop the city wall and commanded the army to defend the city. Although under his leadership, our army finally won a great victory, it was truly offensive to the eyes. Oh my gosh, this salted fish is ruining the reputation of General Gu with his lazy ways. But see, it's a hint. He should have a tiny hint. I have seen this behavior somewhere. Lin Qingyu, what? What did the emperor say? His Majesty has yet to make an imperial judgment. Moreover, General Gu himself has also sent in a report. He said that due to his poisoning and his close brush with death, he has grown disillusioned by the mortal world, that his body and mind were no longer as they were before, and that he can no longer fight the enemy at the front lines for the Dayu. To let him continue to command the three armies would at best delay military planning and at worst endanger the people. He is now a 30-year-old elder and he hopes not to ruin his integrity in his later years. He hopes that the emperor will look kindly upon his years of hard work and allow him to return to the capital to lead the life of an idle rich man. The more Huji said, the more inconceivable he found everything to be. Of course, these weren't the original words written by Gu Fuzhao in the report. Shao Songzi of Xincheng Palace added his personal style when he recounted it to Huji, but the general meaning was not wrong. General Gu also recommended General Zhao to take over the post of General of the Shangli army. He repeatedly begged the emperor to allow him to return to the capital immediately. Gu Fuzhao joined the army at the age of 14, and Lin Qingyu was only 4 years old when he became famous at the age of 16. It could be said that Lin Qingyu grew up listening to Gu Fuzhao's deeds. Although he had entered the medical field when he was young, he too yearned to go to the battlefield to chop down their enemies and win glory. There weren't many people who managed to earn his admiration and respect. Gu Fuzhao was one of them. Well, obviously, he isn't the Gu Fuzhao you were looking up to while growing up. He's your salted fish husband. He's just trying all the ways. I will relinquish my title, of general. I just want to, laze around as a rich idle man in the capital with my wife. Just let me come over to the capital. He's trying his best to meet Lin Qingyu before the 100-day deadline. Oh, that's so sweet. What Huji said wasn't at all like something a proper general would say. Lin Qingyu was silent for a long time. He couldn't help but say, "This person that you're talking about is really General Gu? Gu Fuzhao?" Huji said, Pan Yuan once said that if a person has personally experienced walking the line between life and death, it is not uncommon for them to change their temperament after being lucky enough to survive. Perhaps General Gu really had a realization and wishes to return to the capital to live in ease and comfort. Lin Qingyu nodded. Perhaps.